You are watching Access LaPorte County, Channel 97. Coming up next is the August 11th, 2022 meeting of the Michigan City Sustainability Commission. You can find more information for this meeting by visiting www.accesslaportecounty.org.
Okay, it is 4:30 and I'm calling to order the meeting of the Michigan City Sustainability Commission for Thursday, August 11th, 2022. May I ask for the roll call, please?
Tim Bauer.
Here.
Tristan Bogart.
Oh,
Bailey Chavis.
Here.
Bryant Dabney. Andy Johns Davis.
Here.
Laura Henderson. I'm here. Clarence Kelsey. Daisy Lee. Nancy Moldenhauer.
here.
Faye Moore.
Here.
Mary Kate Neary.
Here.
Angela Reynolds. Latanya Troutman.
Here.
1, 2, 3, 4. We have a quorum.
Well, thank you, Laura, I appreciate that. Okay, and when she says we have a quorum, that means if anything comes up for a vote, we're able to do that, so that's why that's important. Okay, first of all, I'd like to call for the approval of the July 14th, 2022 minutes. Would somebody make a motion to accept those, please?
I'll make a motion to accept the July 14, 2022 minutes.
Thank you, Faye. Who will second that?
I second that.
Tim, thank you for seconding that. All in favor, please raise your right hand and say aye.
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 All opposed? Okay, passes unanimously. Thank you. This next item is I'm going to ask for a suspension of rules approval. Andy and I and Daisy Lee have been aware for a while that the cycle that we're bringing on our students just isn't working too well. Because we really want to be coordinated with the school year, okay? So that would mean that the student commissioners would begin in September, after we've had a chance to coordinate with the principals, regarding any new appointments to the commission. And then the term would end in August, at the end of summer, okay? You've been coming on when we've been coming on, which is like around March, April, May for most of us, and there's just a real disjoint there, and I realized with Tristan graduating, probably next year, his term would end right in the middle of the school year, which would make it, extremely difficult to bring anybody, on board at that point, or very embarrassing to ask him to step off, before he actually graduated. So I wanted the commission to consider this. Andy and I are in process of taking a look at the ordinance and updating some things just that haven't been running too smoothly for us. And this one I think cannot wait because we're at the beginning of the school year. Angela Reynolds' term has ended and we're just sort of, it's a very uncomfortable place to be. Let me just put it to you that way. So I'd like to have a brief discussion about this, if it makes sense to the commissioners, if it's something that we could move ahead with before we actually, get the ordinance updates completed, voted on by us, and then looked at by the lawyer, and finally approved by the city council. Okay? So
if we vote in favor of this now, then it goes to the lawyer?
no, this is just for us to be able to continue operating legally. Okay? We will send everything to the lawyer and then to the board when we have the whole package pulled together. Okay?
Okay, so first we vote to approve it, then at some point it goes to the lawyer. So it hasn't been reviewed by
Are
the
we
lawyer
just
yet?
talking about this one item?
Yes, suspension.
No, this is okay for us to do this.
It's okay for us to do
It's
that.
okay for us to do this, yes. And it's just so we can continue operating, okay, in a
Since we
way.
choose and appoint the
Yeah,
commissioners.
yeah, we choose
them.
and appoint the commissioners anyhow.
Okay.
After we check with we usually check with a science teacher at the school, who usually will identify a student or a couple students, and then those names are sent on to the principal, and then the principal makes a decision about who that person is. These student appointments are ultimately just approved by a vote from us. That's it.
Okay.
And since they don't have any legal standing for voting,
They-
like we
okay.
do, then it's
Right,
just up
right.
to us.
Right, it is just up to us, exactly, but, very important question, Laura. Thank you for asking it. Now, when we get everything updated, in the ordinance that needs to be, we present it to you, and, to the commission
Oh,
is the
okay.
one that looks at it and reviews it first.
Sure.
And then we're open to suggestions from this commission. After we vote approval on the changes, then it goes to the lawyer.
Make sure it's kosher.
Yes, make sure it's kosher. And then after we get the approval of the lawyer, well, if the lawyer has some things for us to look at or change, then the lawyer will send it back to us to reconsider. And then after the lawyer, if necessary, approves it a second time, then it goes before the city council. Bryant Dabney, who is our liaison, has already said, I'm there to support you, just let me know when you're ready to do it. Okay? Okay, so, any thoughts or discussion regarding the cycle of when our student commissioners come on and leave? Yes?
I mean, I just joined, I think it was in March or so, and so for me, I'd be starting college, I think, once my term was up, like I'd be in college, so it'd be much easier if it ended like in August, I think, just for like organization, like, you don't know if the commissioners will even be here and stuff, so.
Sure, and that's a very valid point, Mary Kate, thanks for sharing that. Yes, okay.
Definitely appreciate hearing your point, because that was similar to my suggestion. Like, first, the question is, are we just changing the time that the commissioners will be appointed, the student commissioners will be appointed? And if so, wouldn't we align that more with graduation to allow for time frame for the students to sort of prepare and go off to the next phase? And even if we could support anyone, that would be ideal.
And I know for me, it's hard to get any commitment out of any teacher or principal during the summer. So if you're thinking about appointing people in June, no way is that gonna
Could we
happen.
appoint someone, or, with the assistance of, like, say she's graduating in June or May, could we have her assistance in helping us to appoint the next person prior to the next school year, and their onboarding be August? I mean, we only have like a month of that summertime break, which students need off anyway, that there wouldn't be a student commissioner.
Yeah, I would like to, I hear what you're saying, okay, and it gets really complicated and muddy. I know that it is so hard getting the appointments. It is so hard. We finally got Mary Kate, and I made 3 personal visits over to Marquette High School when we first started. That was me going over to the office, and talking to both the secretary and the principal. And it's just really hard. I can't imagine trying to do that during the summer when they're not in session.
Which
I
is
really
what I'm saying,
can't.
before they end the school term, so like,
In like March, May, the
Right.
previous.
I understand exactly what you're saying, yeah, and I get it. And having been a former teacher and realizing what's going on interior-wise in the school, I just don't think it's gonna happen, Nikki. Okay, I'm just being very realistic about it.
see, I on the other end, I just think it's hard to kind of jump on students at the very beginning of the school year.
And then what happens if somebody gets transferred, moves out, isn't here?
I mean, aren't those some of the things that we still have to face if they're still appointed commissioners? That's like, Yeah, that's my feelings of,
Yeah, I got your feelings, I really do,
Yeah.
yeah.
but.
And,
I understand
and,
it's
you know,
just-
I'm looking at it from an administrative standpoint and how crazy it's been for me, you know, being the chair and trying to keep track of all the moving pieces. That's where I'm at. Okay? And I don't want to shut down conversation, but I'm just, you know, I'm being realistic is what I'm, you know, what I'm being right now.
So I guess the point is, or the question is, what are we asking for as far as the suspension of rules? Are we asking for this?
We're asking for our student commissioners not to be appointed March, or is it May? The commission started in March, but I think a lot of us were onboarded in April and May. So most of our appointments run from May to May or April to April. And then I'm just asking for the student commissioners to run from September to August. That's all I'm asking. So that we don't, you know, have a situation where, you know, we have somebody hanging on that's even not at the high school any longer, you know.
Would it make sense for it to follow like the school structure then, so then it's less than a year of appointment? So that it begins in September, but it ends in May?
So you don't want to come during the summer.
I'm just thinking, if you're going to college, you may not be in the state in the summer. I don't know.
Yeah,
Well, you could resign.
you could resign, or you could, you know, you're not voting members, so it's not like it's gonna be something that's going to mess with our quorum requirements, you know. You know, and Mary Kate, it would be nice, you know, it would be nice for, you know, you all who are student commissioners right now, if you would talk it up at your school, you know, to maybe interest, you know, fellow students to consider. Most of our luck has actually come from contacting the science teachers at the school, and then them, you know, being able to identify somebody, and then an interior recommendation from the teacher to the principal seems to work best. Instead of me cold calling the principal and saying, you know, we're interested in having this student added to the commission.
Could the students themselves make recommendations?
I don't see why not.
It says here, we're giving priority to middle school students. Does that mean like when we're no longer on the commission, our spot will be filled with a middle school student?
We're really heavy on high school students right now is what I noticed, yeah.
So would it be helpful for us to like get to know the middle school students?
Yeah, or when you're still middle schooler, you know,
Too late.
talk it up then. You
Got any
know.
younger siblings?
Yeah, whatever, you know, and I know that Angie's still over at Krieger, but she'll be moving up to the high school in September also, so she's up in the high school now too.
Did they start yet this week?
Yep,
Is that-
Wednesday, the students went back.
So yeah, do we have a middle school?
No, we don't.
None at all now, okay.
None, and we won't because our positions are filled,
Right. So, okay.
yeah.
So, a little confusion on my part. Does this suspension mean that a student commissioner could maybe have a few extra months to go up and through?
It could happen that way
Okay.
if their term runs from
Okay.
March to March or April to April or whatever they're
No,
on
with the
now.
suspension. Say if they were from March to March, could they go from March through March to August?
Yes, that's
Okay.
possible,
Okay.
yes. We just need to get consistency with our students because it's all over the board right now. And I keep getting notices from the clerk's office that people, their terms have ended. Yeah, exactly, yeah.
A lot to keep track of.
Yeah, it's really hard to keep track of. It's extremely hard. It is. Yeah, Faye?
My comment basically is that since they are not voting members, it really wouldn't matter when they come and go, in one sense, because they don't vote. And we just have to bring them up to speed as to where we're at when they come on. But I do like the idea of trying to get middle school students, because then they would have more time, hopefully, more time with us.
Yeah,
Well, the one difference it would make would be whether you get paid or not. Because if your term has ended, you're not gonna get paid, even if you come to the meeting. But if your term continues, then you could get paid.
and that's very true. And, I'm just saying from an administrative standpoint, I need for the insanity to end. Okay, I really need for it to end, because it's crazy. I think everything's okay, and then the next month, I get a notice, somebody's term has ended and I wasn't even aware of it. Okay, and it's usually a student commissioner, I'll say that. So, I'm just trying to make it consistent, so it's easily understandable, so it makes sense.
I move in favor of the suspension.
Thank you. Who will second that?
I second.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye and raise your right hand.
Aye.
Okay. All opposed? Okay. Do we have any abstinent votes? Okay. Nikki abstains from voting. Thank you. Okay, thanks for taking care of that. I really appreciate it. Okay, the other thing that's gonna happen today is, I sent out some information and some, reading materials from Larry Zimmer and also Ted, and they're going to be coming today. I didn't get them in on the agenda because I didn't know if they were going to be here early or later. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask for permission to put them under point B, which is funeral homes and crematoriums, which seems pretty much in line with what they're going to be talking about. Unless anybody has any objection to that, we'll just do that. I'm not sure exactly when they're going to show up because they had work to complete before they came to be with us. So they'll be here as soon as they can, okay? And keep your eyes open if you see them show up. Let me know, please.
Sure.
So we'll go ahead and start with our project teams. We'll move through. I'll keep moving B down until Larry and Ted show up, okay? Okay, thank you for your flexibility, I appreciate it. Waste reduction and garbology. Mary Kate, did you want to give us an update on what's happening at Marquette since, I don't know, has school started for you yet?
We start on Monday, yeah. I gave a little update last time, but
Yeah.
yeah, I created the posters thanks to your help, so I edited them and I sent it over to our counselor. So hopefully we can print those off and just hang them up around the school. And the new totters, I think that's what we call them, I don't know, that I got from the recycling place in LaPorte, those are placed around the school, so I think, yeah, it's gonna be a good year. Got some signage and everything, so it should be good, yeah.
Great, and I think that possibly Daisy Lee helped you out with.
Yeah,
this
she sent me over
sign?
some good materials and stuff to use when I made my posters, so.
Okay, great. Congratulations. This is really very exciting. And I just want to acknowledge you. Really, this is great. And this is a project that aligns with reducing our trash that's actually going to the landfill in Michigan. So these are exactly the kinds of projects that we're looking for to bring down our carbon emissions. So really, thank you. Okay, and then I did find out about an item grant for recycling projects, which is available for up to $100,000. And the next submission cycle was from September 1st to October 6th. I'm not sure if we're going to be able to make this or if we should even aim for it because it's coming up very quickly. When I looked it up, these are offered throughout the whole year. Okay, so this just isn't a one-time offering for this. So I do want to look to the Waste Reduction and Garbology Committee, Daisy Lee, Tim Bauer, Bailey Chavis, Angela Reynolds, and Mary Kate Neary. And if you're interested in taking a closer look at this, then a person probably to talk to would be Satya Gee Burns, who's actually the head of the LaPorte County Waste Management District. I was told she has written and submitted these grants in the past, so she may have an idea of what it would involve. And then we were thinking about this potentially being a grant that could fund the idea of the Feed the Fish in Washington Park. We were looking for a creative idea to collect aluminum cans and plastic bottles at Washington Park Beach. So they may go for something like this because it's like a original idea that hasn't been tried before in Indiana. So one of the things, besides starting brand new recycling programs, that seems to be what they fund the most, but this actually would be tackling an issue that hasn't been able to be resolved in a community. So they may be interested in this, okay? I'll just have to say I don't have the bandwidth right now to be able to take this project on, so I'm sort of transferring it to the committee, okay?
I have a question. What was the
Yeah.
person's name again, the director?
Satya, S-A-C-H-A, Gee, G-E-E, Burns, B-U-R-N-S, Satya Gee Burns. So it's an opportunity, and then the percentage of the match that would have to be come up with, then maybe we could approach NIPSCO for that. You know, it was like maybe 20% or, you know, something like that, if I'm remembering correctly.
Here for sustainability?
No, I'm at a budget meeting, but ELC rule. Oh, hi, sorry.
I think they're in the main chamber.
Thank you, I'm so sorry.
Okay, so that's what's up with that. I still have not connected your committee with the person at NIPSCO either. I need to do that.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah,
Is the park department involved in trying to get this grant at all?
not so far.
Okay.
And I know who you're thinking about.
No,
We won't say anything in public
Okay.
until that person has been approached in private.
Okay, I'm not thinking about anybody else.
Oh,
just wondering.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, there's another potential partner there.
Okay.
Yeah. And I don't like to announce things publicly until the director, superintendent or director has been approached about somebody that
Sure.
works under them.
I just didn't want us reinventing the wheel.
Oh, I agree totally. I agree totally.
Somebody has already filled out the grant. That would be great.
I got your thinking. Okay, awesome. Okay, so then I think we're up to date on waste reduction and garbology. And this still remains one of the number one issues in all of Northwest Indiana as far as bringing down our greenhouse gas emissions. We just produce too much garbage, trash, and it's going to landfills. That's not just us, it's not just LaPorte County, it's the whole region, okay? So we're trying to come up with solutions, working together on that. Okay, have our guests showed up yet? No? Okay, I'm gonna skip over B, that will continue to be brought down. C, caught you being green. Andy?
We've got, our next post is approved, so we just have to add a few fun things to it and put it up. Really excited. Thank you. Mary Kate was the author of the next, Caught You Being Green, and you'll get the byline on there. Thank you so much. And then next, I was assuming you wanted to do yours when we have all the information after today. So we've got the next two, Caught You Being Green, all set and ready.
Great.
I didn't have to write them, so that's even better. No.
No, that's great. And
It's awesome. So I'm really excited that you guys both wanted to do that. And yours is fun. So I think that'll be great. Thank you so much. Very well written. So that's it with though, since we have a couple set up, I do have a small update for our next Earth Month extravaganza.
Okay.
I have to sign the paperwork, but we will be at Krieger Memorial Hall next year and possibly have it all day. So that's very exciting for us. There's creek there, it's outdoors, lots of parking. We could possibly still do something at the library, but our large event we want to have there. There's a lot of room and we just think it'll be great. The nature is there as well. So we'll get that started. April, I forget the exact date, end of April. We have a long time. So we'll let you know. And that's all of the major things for now.
April 29th.
Nice. Okay, thank you. April 29th, 2023.
So it's the one day before the end of the month in April, April 29th.
Andy, did you call that Earth Month extravaganza?
Yes, I did. Earth Month. Because I know it's not officially recognized as Earth Month nationally, but as far as advertising, I've seen it advertised as Earth Month for a number of years. Some people say Earth Week. April 22nd is nationally recognized as Earth Day, but I'm a tree hugger, so let's go all month. I'll go with that advertising. Works for me. And then perhaps if we could add smaller events. I know we've talked about that in the past before COVID hit and we had to cancel. Maybe some art events through April and even into May when the weather's nice. There's other environmental holidays like water days and pollinator week and things like that we could do small things for, I think, in the future. Everybody would like to do that. So send me all your ideas.
Thank you, Andy.
You're welcome.
That's a great update. And anybody on this commission is welcome to write a very brief article for posting on our Facebook page. And we also forward those, I forward those onto the local newspapers too, to see if any of them would pick it up and, want to publish it also. So, keep that in mind, okay? Really, anybody's welcome to do that. I know, Nikki, you have many things that you do, outside of the commission work you're doing here. So anytime if you have something, from Solar United Neighbors or, anything like that, we're very open to people contributing to our social media page. And then Andy takes it and she makes it fun because she puts all these emojis in it and, people are going, ooh, what's this? And I believe they really take a look at it because it does look different from anything else you're seeing that's being posted. So keep that in mind, everybody. Faye, Tim, I know all of you have your, Laura, we all have our individual passions, so. Here we go.
Version to the newspaper.
Oh, hi. Perfect time, actually.
I don't know what she sends, honestly. To
No,
the paper.
I do not send the emoji.
Oh, darn.
I do not send the emoji version to the newspaper.
Print them then.
I hate to tell you.
I know.
I hate to tell you that, but I don't. Okay. Okay. This is perfect timing.
Okay, good.
We are ready for you. And probably what I'm going to ask, if it's okay, Ted and Larry, I'm going to ask if you'd come and sit right up here by Tim, so that we would be able to get you on camera. On camera then, and then we can do that. So while you guys are moving and getting set up, let me just give Bailey a brief moment to catch us up on what's happening with the funeral homes and the crematoriums.
Yes, so nothing extremely exciting, just I have an email written, it's proofread, it's on its way. I have a physical copy to read for you, but I'm straight from practice, so I'm not at all prepared. But I will hopefully be hearing from them soon. Something more successful than last point's contact.
Very good. I like your brief and succinct report. So, and I don't know, I hope we helped you out because the business we are talking about, Geis and Carlisle, we actually waged a little social media campaign.
I saw that. I felt solidarity.
Online. I know I said something and I sent it out to various commissioners and said, please go and make a note that we would like to have the plant a tree option available in addition to buying flowers. So I hope some of you jumped on with me. And if they get enough of those, they're going to start taking notice. I hope as long as somebody's tracking their Facebook page. So, yes, in solidarity.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so, okay. Ted and Larry, are you ready? Are you okay? Okay. I would like for you to introduce yourselves to our commissioners, and I did send out the materials beforehand that you requested I send out.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Okay, we're so glad you could come here and be with us today.
All right, great. And we won't take up a lot of your time, but we did want to introduce this concept to you. So I'm Lawrence Zimmer. I'm the president of the Plan Commission and the Board of Zoning Appeals, and a lifelong environmentalist.
And one of our original members of the Sustainability Commission, so thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
And I'm Ted Personowski. Larry and I have been life partners for 36 years, officially married when it became legal 8 years ago, so we're at 36.8 right now. That's sort of the Microsoft releases of 12.0 or whatever. So I have a counseling practice here in town. I have an office in my home, and we've lived here full-time in Michigan City for almost 20 years. And thank you for having us today.
And I just have to put a tagline in here. They live in, like I call it the eco house. When they build it, they used a lot of repurposed materials. And they did look into solar for their home also, and unfortunately they have too many of those beautiful tall oak trees around their house to be able to do it. So, kudos to both of you for being truly green residents of Michigan City. Thank you.
Trying our best. Yeah. So along those lines, as we get older, we've been thinking about our end of life, making our end of life plans, which includes what happens in terms of funeral and burial and all of that. Our research has led us to a movement that's going on right now that I think our town should be part of, and that's the green burial movement. And so what we have discovered is that there's two elements to this, which I think I put in my email to you. That there's the process, the ceremony and all of what happens to the deceased person, once they have died. But then the other aspect of this is what is the final resting place, and that's primarily why we're here today. Is we think that we as a city have an opportunity to create what's called a hybrid cemetery, and that would be where, and there's many of these all over the country, there's like 160 of them. We have 5 others in the state right now. Lafayette, Crawfordsville, Indianapolis, Bloomington, but there's none up in this area at all. And the hybrid cemetery is usually just a portion of an existing cemetery that's been already formally laid out, but has a section set aside for people who want to be what's called buried in a more natural state. So that includes not being embalmed, not necessarily being in a casket that's made of a lot of synthetic materials and anything that's not biodegradable, not being in a concrete burial vault, and then being in a part of the cemetery that's just left to be more natural and not formally groomed with like cutting grass and having monuments and all of that. The idea is that you let your body decompose naturally into the ground, and the trees and the plants absorb your carbon and it creates new life. So you're having we're all environmentalists, right? And I think there's a lot of people out there who are too. And so you try to live by those values your whole life, so why shouldn't those values be at work at the end of your life as well, and in your afterlife? So that's why we're here. We basically want to hopefully work with you to hopefully get a portion of Swan Lake Cemetery converted to a portion, and they do have an undeveloped section right now that could become the green burial ground, and all of the things that entails. So that's the basic rundown.
Yeah. I guess when we had these ideas, our thought first, and I apologize, we didn't think to come first to the Sustainability Commission, then go to the cemetery and just ask if they're interested. So that's what we did. And we met with them back in the second week of June and gave a presentation very similar to what Larry just shared and the comments I'll add. And I mean, they made time for us on their meeting, but they said they'd get back to us, and we sent a follow-up email about 10 days afterwards, but there's been no response to that email at all. And so there's been no follow-up, and maybe they're busy, maybe it's summertime, we don't know. But while that was going on, we thought, where was our mind that we didn't come to talk to you first about this? And so that's what we're here to do today. But especially as Michigan City is expanding, I mean, Larry's even been very much of an advocate for sending letters to people that are behind the new, station at 11th and Franklin. Is that going to be a green building? Is that going to be carbon neutral? All the different questions that should be asked. So trying to stay on the radar screen with that. But end of life is part of it as well. And if Michigan City is seen as more of a green-minded kind of community, why wouldn't that include burial? Now, there are not going to be tons of people rushing for this, we know that. And one of the questions at the cemetery board that they asked was, well, what do the funeral homes think about this? Well, we contacted one of them and never heard back from them either about going with us to the cemetery board. But again, this would not take that much business away from them. There would not be that many people choosing a wicker basket or even, a biodegradable cardboard box for their burial vessel. It would be a small minority, but wouldn't it be something that Michigan City could say, we have a place for green burials, especially because the room is there. And the cemetery board asked, well, what about the maintenances? Larry was talking about an old grave sink and all of that. Well, from the research we've done, there are ways to dig a grave and then how to mound it afterwards, so that over time, it isn't like sinkholes in the cemetery or depressions in the land. And it could be very, very beautiful and park-like. Now, we haven't done any on-site research for this concept, and we're going to take a few days in the middle of September to go down to the Indy area, Bloomington and Lafayette, to make some appointments to get some more data for places that have a hybrid approach to their cemeteries. And we'd be happy to come back to you with information about that. But that's what I wanted to add at this point.
Yeah. So I guess we would be open to any discussion or any questions that you might have, or maybe you want to just take this in right now and ponder it, and then maybe when we come back in a month or two with our report of what we found at these other hybrid cemeteries, then maybe that would open us to more discussion time. But we're open to anything you want to ask right now.
The other thing we want to make sure maybe we can get restaurants involved, because the one thing that does not go away with a green burial is the luncheon. There still will be a luncheon.
Food is important.
Yes, food is always important.
So my question is, how would this affect the actual, process, or like you said, the ceremony of the burial? Because my assumption is there still will be a casket, but I heard you say that there is no casket. So how would this, is this more of a rental of the casket then? And sort of, if we did in a regular funeral, if we did that, how would that impact the burial that we didn't see?
Well, I understand from what I read that in a hybrid cemetery, the section that's devoted to being green, they have certain requirements in order for you to be certified as such. And that would basically be, you could still have a casket, but they ask that it just be of all natural materials, unfinished. So you might still have a wood coffin, but it wouldn't be like made with any formaldehyde-based, particle board or plywood. It would have to be 100% natural wood. And the idea is that it would decompose and, work itself back into nature naturally without polluting the groundwater or the ground around it. So you can still have a casket if you wish, but some people say they just want to be wrapped in a shroud, perhaps, and then the body is like put on a plank, like a 2x12, and then lowered into the ground that way, and then the earth goes on top.
So would there be still like a headstone? Is that also something that's like, how does that work?
Okay, so I guess it all depends on how the cemetery chooses to do it, but in general, there would not be above ground headstones. And what they would ask is that if you did a headstone, that it be a natural, more unfinished piece of stone that could still have, be engraved in some way, but lay flat in the ground and not protrude up. Because the idea is to create something that feels more like a natural park. So rather than having a formal block, that's been engraved, maybe it's just a flat, natural piece of stone that's engraved that lays flat in the ground.
Would it be an option for something like a tree instead of?
Yes, absolutely.
Sorry, those are my questions.
No, those are great questions.
And there's a whole lot of detail on this, and I guess we could get into all the little fine points if you want, but because there's no formal markings for each grave, they are located by GPS. So because the cemetery obviously has to keep track of who's where, and everybody still gets the same block of space. It's like 3x5 or something like that, and it's marked by a metal stake in the ground that has could have like a bronze medallion on top with the person's name and birth and death dates. So some of them can be very inconspicuous, and again, so that it just kind of disappears into nature. But if you had to find that person, you would have you'd have GPS coordinates that could be looked up, like say on an app on a phone, and you just follow your phone to that location, and that's where your loved one is.
Okay, I have one last question. How does this impact cost?
Well, it does lower cost, especially the more you choose to do yourself, obviously, but you could still enlist the services of a funeral home to maybe do the body transportation, and the cemetery still has to dig the grave. In some cemeteries, they let the family refill the hole and do their own labor that way, but the cemetery has to do the digging because obviously they have to create a very precise hole. But I would say in general, the prices would be lower because there's less cost involved. You're not buying the concrete vault, you're not buying an expensive casket, you're not being embalmed. So that's another aspect of it, is you don't want your body full of formaldehyde when you're going to be naturally decomposing in the ground, because then that's contaminating the groundwater.
May I add a couple of things?
Sure.
Your first name, I'm sorry.
My name's Latanya.
Latanya. You asked about ceremony. As Larry said, you could still have visitation at a funeral home, because in the state of Indiana, you don't have to be embalmed, but if you're not going to be embalmed, you can't have an open casket. So you can still have something at a funeral home, a service or whatever. But then part of the green question there is then you're using fossil fuels to drive the body from the funeral home to the cemetery. Whereas at Swan Lake, they have those two chapels right on site there in the mausoleum areas, so that you could have a small ceremony at either one of those locations and then just walk the body to the grave. So I think there's plenty of room for ceremony, as you asked. And then in terms of cost, I mean, even some of these, like wicker basket kind of, burial vessels, they're not cheap. They can still run several $100 or $1,000 or so, some of them. But you're not, as Larry said, you're not paying for a burial vault. And caskets alone are usually very, very expensive.
I guess the cost just depends on how much you want to do. That's basically it.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, and we look forward to you coming back.
Lauren has a question.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Laura.
behind you, sorry.
Your blind spot there.
I'm assuming that the burial would have to happen pretty fast after the death because you're not embalming. So is it like within 48 hours or?
Ideally, but they say that as long as the deceased person is kept in a cool place, that it can actually last several days and still be in okay shape.
But of course, I guess you could have the burial and then have a memorial service later on too.
Exactly, yeah. Okay, Tim?
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. Are there other possible locations, do you think, in Michigan City?
Well, we know there's no more room in Greenwood or
No, there isn't.
St. Stan's?
St. Stanislaus.
No room.
Yeah.
Okay. There's a big empty lot in the St. Stan's, but
They're all called,
it's all filled?
they're all taken, so to speak, pre-sold, whatever.
Oh, okay.
If you go to Swan Lake and you drive in and you kind of keeps to your right and follow the road, you'll see that, and actually if you look at a map of the property, there's a huge triangle of space that I guess the northern edge would be those railroad tracks, and then the western edge is that industrial park that's back over there. There is several acres of just undeveloped land right there right now. They do have a master plan that includes finishing that off at some point, but that's decades in the future, so.
There's also some mixed data too on how much energy cremations use. So that's a real mixed story too, and that's why there's a simplicity to this. I'm sorry.
No, that was kind of my question. So they wouldn't do cremation, and then the funeral home also would have to agree to that, right? Agree to that type of ceremony.
Right. This is, yeah.
So there's certain codes that Indiana has, so would that be additional license for the funeral directors to get to be able to do this type of service?
I don't know. And that's a great question, and that's why we wanted to take a couple of days to go visit a couple of these cemeteries that do this.
Yeah.
And just ask them what are some of the issues that come up precisely. That's a great question.
Yeah, and I think because Bloomington Lafayette's already doing it, then somebody has worked out all of these details that need to be addressed. And I'm sure they're following Indiana code if they're doing it already, okay? Okay, Ted and Larry, thank you very much. We look forward to your return to talk with us again after you've done your fact-finding mission.
Okay.
And we definitely invite you back.
Thank you.
And you're welcome to stay if you'd like to, and you don't have to if you don't want to for the rest of our meeting.
Okay.
Okay?
And then just if you could just kind of keep in your mind, how would the Sustainability Commission be able to assist in this effort to create this green burial section of the cemetery? Like, how would you be able to advocate for us and work with us to work with the cemetery trustees, and because they're the ones that have to approve it, and right now there doesn't seem to be a lot of interest on their part, so they're going to need a little coaching and convincing.
Thank you very much. We only have 10 minutes left to our meeting, so I just wanted to bring that to everybody's attention. Yeah. So we'll get as far as we can, and if we don't, then we draw the line and we pick it up the next time we get together, because that's our agreement with each other. So, Carbon Neutral Indiana, I think the thing I just want to emphasize about that is a pre-order on that book is available. So you can go online and order that. And also, please register for the virtual book launch. And that is also, the link is still listed here. And the launch is happening August 31st, and it's in the evening. I don't remember the exact time. This is a very exciting project. This publication will be going out to approximately 3,000 elected officials within the state of Indiana. So this could have tremendous impact as far as the environmental movement here in Indiana. U.S. Department of Energy, I just have been in contact with Scott this week. We're going to try to set up a meeting with him the week of August 22nd. So you who are on that committee, be looking for an email with a way to indicate which of the days you'll be available. I believe we'll stick with the 4:30 time because that was working out for everybody. Let me see, the next meeting that was just today. We had a meeting. We're gonna skip over that. We'll report on that next time, Laura, okay? And then, Soul Power, I just have some new stats which I think are really exciting to learn about. So far, Soul Power has held 6 classes, and there have been 21 certifications. 21 individuals have been certified as solar panel installer helpers. 4 of those classes were held at Ivy Tech, and the other 2 were held at the local NAACP LaPorte County branch, which is at the Hope Community Center. So congratulations to Soul Power. I think we really need to acknowledge. And Nikki, you were the person who created and born that whole program, you know. So thank you very much for coming and presenting that to us and getting our support. And you know, it's going, and it's going to be so successful. I just know that. Okay. I'm not going to talk about this either. I was interviewed yesterday morning. There's going to be an article, or what they call a case study. Is going to be authored by the U.S. Department of Energy. It's going to be published nationally, and it's going to be talking about how our Sustainability Commission became involved with SoulSmart and how we got our designation. And I'll just have to say they're very excited about all of the innovative work that's going on here in Michigan City. You know, sort of like, how did you come up with these ideas? You know, how are you doing this? You know, how did this come about? So they're really hoping this article, case study, will help inspire other cities to look differently at what they've taken on and accomplished. Solar United Neighbors, hopefully round 3 will be happening this fall. That's all I'm going to say about that. Let me see, we're down to our Drive Clean Indiana annual conference at Expo that we attended on Tuesday. So,
Yes.
talk about these.
Yes, so you have the Northwest Indiana 2050 plus plan, and it tells you the background of the NERC, and also their plan history for 2050, about having the electric units on I-80 corridor. They expect to have the units. They're already, and they're going to probably, right now they already have a contract with Myers, the store, because they are located right on I-80. A lot of them are located right on I-80, and they're going to help with the cost of the installation of the charging units for vehicles on the I-80 corridor. And it was so exciting. And then you have a 15-minute city family scavenger hunt, and they use Lake Fields.
Oh my
Elementary school for that everything should be located within walking distance, 15 minutes and walking distance, like when you go to work, where you go to grocery shop, where you go. So cities should be starting to plan their cities like that, to have grocery stores, to have parks, to have places that people can work 15 minutes from their living locations. And whatever. So the scavenger hunt, please take advantage of doing this. And that code that they have on here is actually must be for Indianapolis or Lake County. It's not our county. So I just clicked on that and that's not us.
Thanks for
But the map, they did use Lake Hills Elementary School, and if you look at the map, you'll see a lot of the areas that you're gonna notice. And please do the scavenger hunt with your families. I thought that was very interesting.
Thank
So
you.
cool. Faith, thanks for bringing these back to us. I totally missed out
I
on
missed
these.
this too, completely.
Went to different sessions probably. So, anybody else who was there on Tuesday, do you have some, let's say your best moment or the surprising thing that you learned or the most exciting thing that happened? Just share a little nugget. And you don't have
I'm full of
to.
today's meeting.
Oh, no, there's a lot.
You don't have to.
One exciting thing was the buses, the fully electric buses. I don't remember the company, but one company was working very, very, very closely with getting really good buses out there that have some distance, and they're fully electric. Other companies running electric chargers that are off the grid. Run with bio fuels or byproducts of biofuels. That was exciting for me. I thought that was really interesting. Just everybody really moving forward with a lot of plans. The transits were really interesting to me though, the major transit and the EV charging and that it's getting just much better and easier.
Faster.
That's true.
Yeah, user friendly. It's not as hard as it used to be, where you think you have to have a degree in rocket science to to use them. Also, they had a couple of vehicles there that you could get in and check out. It was pretty interesting.
I noticed they had the Mustang, the BMW, and Tesla.
Yes, so that was awesome. To where you're not going to lose the performance that a lot of people like in vehicles or muscle cars like the Mustang, and you can still get the performance and drivability. I like driving cars myself. It's my not tree hugger thing, so it's nice to see that.
But one thing that was interesting to me was that they talked about putting all these charging stations up in Indiana, and utility companies are very much involved in that. And the interesting thing to me was Indiana is somewhat unusual in that the utility companies are cooperating with each other. So there's a whole, some kind of group that includes, a what?
That last panel was a coalition.
Yeah, where everybody was almost asleep, but they were still there. But there's a group, a coalition that includes somebody from Drive Clean and includes representatives from 8 different utilities in the state of Indiana. So that's good.
That's excellent, yeah. And I'll just have to add to the chargers that are being installed along all the interstates. They're going to be 50 miles apart or closer. All the interstates are covered. They're covering 31 down to Indianapolis. And we have a big chunk here in northwest Indiana, right when you get south of the interstates and Highway 30. It's a dead zone as far as chargers go. So they were hoping to be looking at that after this other plan is, put into place. My excitement was Robin Tillman, who's the director of Michigan City Transit, and her assistant came to the conference. And she is totally enrolled in electrifying the public buses here in Michigan City. And she's already made an appointment to get together with Ryan Lisek, and he is the coordinator with Drive Clean Indiana, who helps make these things happen and is very knowledgeable regarding grants for replacement of vehicles that Michigan City would be eligible for. So this was a huge breakthrough for our city, because transportation is another one of those really big areas that we are putting so much carbon pollution into the atmosphere that it's just unbelievable. So I just really want to acknowledge Robin Tillman and her transit department for taking this on. And she plans on her department being the demonstration project for all of the other departments in Michigan City. And she said, we'll get them all on board eventually. So, you know, I really want to, you know, just give her a round of applause. It's really big. Okay, we are at 5:31, so we're going to stop here. Sorry, no time for commission comments, no time for public comments, no time for announcements. But who will call the adjournment?
I'll call adjournment.
I second.
Motion made by Latanya, Nikki, and seconded by Laura. And all in favor, raise your right hand and say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? Okay, thank you very much, everybody. Appreciate your participation and input.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.